loving memory, Linda. From his son, Richard. Dad was born into a traditional Jewish family. With an ancient bloodline and birth heritage, Dad was born into a new world. A new world on the rebound of World War I, on the edge of the Great Depression and World War II. So Dad learned boxing and street survival. Dad went to college to learn the new field of psychoanalysis. Well, that was a valuable new field, and Dad served in the U.S. Army and Air Force during World War II. Even in recent years, Dad would still not reveal to us his top secret operations. So I grew up in the Sputnik era. Dad did top secret work, and he was thrilled by my early and intense interest in magnets, wires, batteries, motors, and rockets. We were natural-born science nerds, and Dad was all for it. Dad taught us to use our talents to advance goodness. Dad made sure we had the moral compass and the work ethic to use our talents for good and to fear God for our wrongs, and thus we were forged. Dad, thank you for your leadership, storytelling, and my introduction to Wilderness Trails. Respectfully, Richard C. Kruger, MD. And from Jeremy. I do think three things really shaped my dad's worldview: growing up in the Depression, World War II, and anti-Semitism. For example, he really wanted me to buy my first house, but not as an investment or money saver, but rather so nobody would kick me out of a rental because I was Jewish. Something that had happened to his family. This really struck me. He had a lot of fight in him because he needed to, I think. One bit of advice I still use is his 3 steps to a good project. First, the preparation. Second, the doing. And third, the cleanup. It works. Also, his love of and concern for the natural world was something he held until the very end. Maybe it was how he softened the rough edges of his world through a meaningful relationship with nature. It certainly had a profound impact on my development. Congregants with whom I spoke in recent days remember that Chuck was a solid person and very much a gentleman when it came to holding the door open for someone walking into the building, in this case, temple, and noticing when someone who was speaking needed a chance to be heard. When participating in Rabbi Paul Citron's 2-year study series, Chuck always had insightful comments to add and meaningful questions to ask. Chuck was able to discuss a wide variety of subjects with a firm foundation of knowledge and familiarity. He engaged in conversations about politics, the Jewish condition, Israel, and about Las Cruces and how great the city is. Chuck had very definite ideas about what he wanted and what he didn't want. He liked good food, and he enjoyed the independence he had for almost all of his life. In my first 2 years here, Chuck was very much still active and present at services, at the Wednesday breakfast, and at other programs. During my recent visits to Chuck at the Arbors, he was always glad to see me, and we would have a chance to talk about a variety of topics. He was quick to ask about how Temple and members of our community were doing. In one of my last visits with Chuck, Linda was there, and she suggested that I sing to him. And so we sang the Shema together. Hear, O Israel, the eternal is our God, the eternal is one. During my last visit last Tuesday, I offered these words in his presence, which are customary to offer at such a time. Be'ado akibruchi, into God's hands I commend my spirit. Be'et ishan be'a'ira, when I sleep and when I wake. V'imruchi be'viati, and with my soul and my body, Adonai li v'lo ira. God is with me, I will not fear. May the best of Chuck's spirit remain with us. May his good works lead to more ways for people to touch one another with healing and with hope. And may his memory ever be for blessing. And let us say, Amen. Going to continue with Psalm 23. First of all, I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and then you can join me in what we can call either it's the Jewish Publication Society 1917 English, which uncannily matches the King James English almost down to the word. but please join in when I get to the English. Adonai Roi lo echsar, v'in od deshe yarbitzeni, al mei v'nuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yishavev. Yancheni v'man le'tzerek v'ma'an shmo. Gam ki elech begetz al-mavet lo ira ra, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha v'nishantecha hema yinachamuni. Ta'arok lefanai shulcha neged zorai. Yishanta v'shemen roshi, kosi v'vayat. Ak tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti v'veit Adonai lo'orech yami. Please join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord. After each of the prayer, or after each of the lines that I read, please respond with the phrase, "We will remember him." In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we have achievements that are based on his, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. When we realize that he is now a part of us, we will remember him. The final prayer in the Jewish funeral service, God full of compassion, El Malei Rachamim, is one that expresses some of the ideas in a very general way about afterlife. It says that the soul finds protection under the wings of God's presence, the Shekhinah. It says that the soul will find peace in its resting place, and also that the soul will be bound up in the bond of eternal life. I think that the rabbis who created our liturgy were wise in not getting any more specific than that, because it allows us as individuals to come up with an interpretation of our own that brings us comfort and also a sense that the legacy and memory of our loved one, and maybe even the presence, is still with us. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shofet Bamronim, Hamsei Menucha Nefona, Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, B'malot Kedoshim V'Tohorim, Kazohar Harakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Azeh Shalach Lo Lamo, V'ganin Et Tehem Menuchato, Ana Ba'al Harachamim, Hasirehu B'Seknat Tefalolanim, Utzror B'Tzror Chayim Et Yishmato, Adonai Hu Nachlato, Ve'anuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted and passionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure for the soul of Chuck Kruger, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us sing. Amen. The burial service tomorrow will be at 11 a.m. in Rio Rancho. There will be a minion at the Kruger home, 9 Las Casitas, on Thursday night. Rather than 7 o'clock, it will begin at 7:30. And we'll be sure that people who would like to be there at the Kruger home that night will have directions, either through an email to temple congregants, or if anybody else who is outside the congregation would like to have directions, you can contact me or contact the family. I'm sure that will give you the path to get you there. Our service here is concluded.
All there, so I can get your meeting in the back.
The earth is the eternal's and all that it holds, the world and all its inhabitants. God has founded it upon the ocean and set it on the nether streams. Who may ascend the mountain of the eternal? Who may stand in God's holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not taken a false oath by my life or sworn deceitfully. He shall carry away a blessing from the eternal, a just reward from God his deliverer. Such is the circle of those who turn to the eternal, who seek your presence, O God of Jacob.
Lovely. Always lovely.